In this game, the Earth is covered in toxic dust, and the last survivors reside in a space station above with a mysterious illness I've been sent to the surface to find the cure for. With only 100 days to do it, can I survive the perilous heights and terrifying creatures lurking below? Don't look down, we're jumping right into forever skies. Landing on day 1 was a bit rough.
Emergency landing procedure completed.
Oh, we definitely completed the landing procedure. Good thing someone put this first aid kit here, along with a very ominous note. Find the cure at all costs. The fate of us all depends on you. Well, that's not good. I busted my way through the door to find a very dusty-looking Earth, and myself with quite a cough.
Symptoms of a virus activity detected.
Guess I better get to work. I suppose the fate of us all includes me too. Up these stairs, I found one locked set of doors, and then a very unlocked door, completely ripped off its hinges. Guess we'll go in that one. On the wall, there was a power box, missing a battery, several of these machine parts, another note, and a nice can of water I'm sure I'll be needing soon enough. Don't want to end up looking like this guy. Oh look, there's that battery I need. Hope this isn't important or anything. I jumped back down and put it in the power box, ignoring the message about checking the computer, and instead heading right for the doors it unlocked. Inside, I found some mysterious drawings on the wall, an old food ration, and one more note. Sounds like this Noah had a rough go. Following these slightly sketchy stairs next, I found an interesting looking box with a door that opened, then this empty bottle sitting right next to some very green water. I gathered everything I could find and headed up this yellow ladder next, finding even more dirty water and someone who looked like they might have drunk it. I think I'll pass for now, thanks. The final note I found here had an airship to-do list, and I realized that the box I'd seen with the door before was my new blimp. Ooh. Looks like it's already equipped with a few things. I added the membrane to the water condenser and attached the lure to this insect catcher, sending it down into the dust. I waited for a moment before getting bored and going back to exploring. Just as I walked away though, it caught something. Well, that was fast. It seemed to be yanking on the line, and I expected some bug when I pulled it up. Nope, it's dust lettuce. A bit disappointed, I grabbed the lettuce and sent the lure back down, going back again to look around. Doing my best to ignore the other quests in the corner, I found this fabricator next and placed it on my airship, just in time to check the insect catcher again. Looks like more dust lettuce. This time, though, I ate it.
The immune system has dealt with viral infection.
I didn't die, so that's good. Paying a bit of attention to the quest now, I looked in the fabricator to make a deck extractor. I had plenty of machine parts to make it, but needed to find a transformer. It didn't take me long, and in just a few seconds I had the extractor crafted. I managed to squeeze it on the deck by the insect lure and started extracting. You can use it to collect materials like metal from structures and synthetics from the floating balls. Oops, hope there wasn't anything important in that building. After running out of stuff to collect that way, I moved it to the other deck and started scavenging everything off this tower as well, including a tiny bit of glass and anything that happened to float through. With all the metal cleared, I could access another room now, where I found a few more parts, 2 batteries, and a research station. It barely fit on the ship, but I didn't care. I was too excited to see what I could unlock in it. Excuse me while I struggle to figure out the battery. I'll get it sorted eventually. When I did, I researched the scanner first, crafting it at the fabricator, and went straight to test it out. This shiny red wrecked engine caught my eye first, unlocking it for research. Then I went on a bit of a scanning spree. Dirty water, dead guys, random equipment, floaty things, and pretty much anything it would let me. Back at the ship, I got straight to work, researching and crafting my first engine, sticking it right on the back of the box. Aw, it's kinda cute. I hopped in, starting more research, and grabbing the controls for my first flight.
Mission started. Find a cure for the virus. Send it to the space station. Save humanity.
Following the guide, I steered the ship to the nearest flashing light and attempted to set down on the edge of the platform, just a bit further. Oops. Yeah, that'll do for now. I started to hop off when I was taken by a sudden coughing fit again and rethought my plan. Maybe I should get some rest instead. If only I could figure out where to put this bed. As I slept, I had the craziest dream about a beautiful new world reclaimed by nature and ruled by giant mechanical beasts.
I call you forth, the fourth breath I grant you, to live in this world which spirals against time.
I was in the light of Motoran, an upcoming open-world survival game and our sponsor for this video. It's full of these unique mechanimals that can be conquered or tamed, each with different abilities to aid you in battle, a variety of cool-looking weapons for smashing or slashing, plus plenty of amazing landscapes and ancient secrets to discover. After watching the trailer for the first time, I can't wait to play it myself. I've come to love these survival crafting games, and this one is sure looking great. A huge open world to explore, customizable mech animals you can ride, epic bosses to fight, stuff to build, and not to mention this cute little guy. Oh, it's a ferret. I need it. Be sure to use my link in the description to add it to your wish list on Steam, and maybe next time we see this game, it won't just be a dream. I woke up on day 2 hungry and extracted some materials to make a new insect lure, then reparked my ship so the lure could go down into the dust. Once that was done, I took a nice drink of this dirty water. Not sure why, guess I forgot about this can of fresh water. Oh well, didn't seem to hurt me too much, and look, I even got a new quest now to make a water purifier. Thanks for the tip. I needed more synthetics to make it, but sounds like the lure caught something. Oh yay, rotten food. Back down you go. Now let's zap some more of these floaty ball things. Most of them were out of range, but I got just enough to craft the purifier and went to check the lure again. What the heck is that? I'd caught a dust moth this time, which looks more like some weird fish to me than any moth I'd ever seen. The water purifier was complete after that, and I stuck it above the fabricator, filling it with the dirty water the condenser had collected. Getting quite hungry at this point, I pulled up the lure again, finding more dust lettuce. Guess I'll be having a dust moth salad for lunch. It didn't help much and lowered my thirst, so I finished it off with a can of water. Cooked food is apparently better, but I don't have anything to cook it with yet. Hoping to maybe find a cooker here, I turned the ship around and tried to park yet again. First, I wasn't quite as close as I'd like, and second try, looks like I was a lot closer until I jumped off and turned around. That's a lot bigger gap than I thought. I went on, gathering things from the platform, including these new electrical elements. Then, scanned this big red thing that was a turbine I can research. There was more to explore, but my stats were still quite low, and I could hear the insect catcher had caught something else on the ship. It could be something good to eat, if I can figure out how to get back on the ship. I couldn't quite make the jump and was thankful when I noticed this climb aboard prompt. Guess I should probably adjust my parking job. There we go. It was only dust lettuce again, and I ate it raw. I considered eating some rotten food before deciding instead to see what I could find on the tower again. It was nothing but more parts, fuel, and a few empty drawers. I did find a flashlight to scan and another battery on top. Cannonball! Oh, that was higher up than I thought. With my health a bit lower, I hopped back on the airship again, pulled up some rotten food, then made a bottle to collect this purified water because I was getting thirsty now too. The food struggle was real as I made another insect lure, completely oblivious to the electric cooker I could already craft. Thinking I probably had to scan it somewhere, I headed off to the next tower. But I probably should have filled up my engines with fuel first, because on the way I ran out right in the middle of the air. I'd picked up some fuel at the last tower and carefully tried to reach the engine to put it in. Easy does it now. That sure looks like a long way down, and I'd rather not find out what happens if you fall. Eventually, I got fueled back up and on my way, arriving at the next tower and struggling again to park the thing. I made a bit of a boo-boo this time and damaged the front of the ship, but finished parking before using these repair patches to fix it. Then, too hungry to explore the new tower, I continued fishing for food and finally noticed the electric cooker when I went to make another lure. I'd already committed to my click before I saw it and waited impatiently to start the cooker. Once I was able to get it crafting, I used a health pack and caught one more dust moth just in time. The cooker was done and ready to cook. Thankfully, the dust moth finished boiling pretty quickly, and I ate it for 25 food. It was much better, and I was excited to cook something else if I could just catch something other than rotten food. Disappointed, I changed my plans and went out in the rain to finally explore this next tower. There was a tent and an old fire here, a camera that didn't work, this glowy thing I couldn't pick up, some plastic scrap, and another ladder leading up to this power box. I grabbed the battery inside it and went to explore this sketchy room behind it. Pretty sure some of that stuff is just hanging on imagination. I found some parts and repair patches, along with this new data card. It unlocked some new building blueprints for my ship that I didn't have the airship builder to make yet. It was dark as I continued searching, making me remember the flashlight I needed to research. But when I finished my search, I'm pretty sure the sun was coming up on day 3. After starting some dust lettuce and the cooker for breakfast, I spent the rest of my morning using this new airship builder I finally made. It was really easy to use and all the stuff is easy to pick up and move. I scooted over the research station and decided to start research on some storage. Had a quick snack of rotten food and boiled dust lettuce. Then, when the research was done, I didn't have enough metal to craft it. Guess it's time for another round of asteroids. When I was done extracting, I'd forgotten about the storage and instead made a second engine, placing the old one on one side of the ship and the new one on the other. Then crafted plenty of synthetic fuel to fill them both for double the go power. I'd worried so much over hunger I hadn't even realized I'd drunk the last of my water. I made an extra water condenser first and added a new platform to place it. Then put new membranes on them both. All I could do was wait for them to collect water now and decided to test out the new engine speed, following the quest to this blue-colored double flashing light. My ship was noticeably faster. Once I got there though, it wouldn't go high enough to get to it. Daggone it. Looks like I'll need to add a turbine before I can reach it. Instead, I continued to the next flashing orange light,
Unknown location reached.
where this tower looked like it was overgrown with giant lily pads, and I attempted to park at the edge of them when I got this notification.
Risk of dehydration.
I stopped the ship and drank a little dirty water, putting the rest in the purifier before finishing my parking job and replacing the membrane on one of the condensers. Along with my dehydration issue, I was also getting really tired and used the builder to add another room on my ship so I could put my bed back down. Before calling it a night, I put a new battery in the research station and started researching that turbine. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot to make that storage box.
Fatigue. Rest is recommended.
I know. Just let me drink this water first and I'll take a nap. After waking up early on day 4 and finding I needed copper and circuit boards before I could research anything else, I started exploring the lily pad tower, which is apparently called an overgrown tower. I climbed up this vine, past some very buzzy bugs, gathered some dirty water, and then climbed a ladder to collect one more battery. I scanned this flower that was new before heading back down, right into the bugs.
Immune system has dealt with.
My immune system dealt with it just fine, but it still freaked me out all the same. I took a quick break after that to start some lunch, then headed back for more. The heights so far have been scary enough, but now I'm starting to think that might be the least of my worries. I collected the bruise flower from this branch, and from there I could scan this broken garden pot up on the roof. Inside the building I could see some stuff, but couldn't scan it or find any entrance. So hoping maybe I could extract one of the walls, I headed back to the ship, finding this little lobster pepper on the way. My lunch was done too, and I ate it before putting the pepper on to boil next. Then a couple more dust moths too. I was trying to stay ahead of my hunger now, and after topping it off, I got to work with the extractor. Once it seemed like I'd cleared everything, I hopped back down to the lily pads, only to find it was just the same garden pot I'd scanned from the roof. Well, darn. There was this broken door inside to fix though. I used a few repair patches and it slid right open to reveal yet another garden pot and some sort of broken box. I'd used all the patches though and looted the other stuff first, including another data pad and some sort of ink bulb seed, then ran back to get more patches. I fixed the storage box with them, opening it to find it full of fuel. Well, that will do. Pushing my luck a little as I jumped back, I got straight to researching. Starting on the small garden pot, I needed a bit more synthetics and grabbed those with the extractor. Then for the first aid kit, I needed a lobster pepper, which I already ate. Oops. Hoping for another, I made one last trip to the lily pads and found one out on this edge, along with some rotten food. Then I might have needed a change of pants after this jump. Okay, maybe this isn't the place for hardcore parkour. Set on finally making that turbine, I drove my ship out into the open to extract more stuff. I needed more electric elements first. I could craft them in the fabricator, but needed copper for that too. So in hopes of scavenging more instead, I went to look for another tower to fly to. It was too dark and stormy to see anything at all though. Guess I'll have to try again tomorrow. The next morning, I placed the new small garden pot, which I did have the stuff to make, then grabbed an ink bulb seed to plant. I tried using rotten food for the fertilizer with no luck before stealing some water from the cooker to water it. After that, I set off to find another tower. I collected some metal from the structures along the way, managing to park at the new tower without too much trouble. This tower held more of the same, and it wasn't too long before I found the electric elements I was looking for the turbine. I grabbed everything else I could find, including another battery, and made my way back to the ship. While I waited for the turbine to craft, I traveled to one of the blue light towers, almost running into this propeller as it loaded in. Excuse me.
Printing completed.
Looks like my turbine is done anyway. I carefully placed it on the side of the ship from the deck.
Maximum flight altitude increased.
It's a bit lopsided, but should do just fine for now. Look how high I can get.
Risk of dehydration.
And we're dehydrated again. As the sun went down, I stayed on the ship, fishing for dinner, and getting the water condensers running again. Now let's see what we can extract from this place. I got some basic metals first, then finally that copper I've been needing. Just what I've been looking for. I used it to research the flashlight I've been wanting, and immediately crafted it. When it was done, I headed outside to explore. This place had a battery too, and then something new, a tank of helium. Ooh. I cleared the inside of the building next, where I found my first circuit board and an old drink. Then, back outside, I grabbed the helium tanks. There was another broken box to loot too, and up this ramp, I found a crashed airship with a broken radar inside to scan. The sun was rising now on day 6, and as I headed back to my ship, I was hit with another coughing fit.
Symptoms of viral infection are worsening. Immunity at risk.
Better find this cure fast. This virus is only getting worse. I adjusted my ship so I could extract all the copper and other materials from the place, then researched a couple more things. Ooh, look, the ink bulbs are done. I immediately threw one in to boil. The dust moths are okay, but it would be great if I could grow some better food. Turns out these actually give more water and health than food, which is nice, just not exactly what I was hoping for. It was back on the wind after that, off to find another new tower to explore. On my way, one of the engines ran out of fuel, leaving me with just one for power. The speed difference was a lot more noticeable after getting used to 2. I trucked on anyway, landing on the edge of this communication point tower, starting research on a better helium fuel, and then taking a little nap. It wasn't night yet, I just wanted to refill my energy before exploring. After that, I put a new battery in the research station and found I needed more circuit boards before I could research anything, including the circuit board itself. Maybe I'll find some in this tower. I climbed up these ladders first to get the battery out of the power box at the top. Then I went down some stairs to find I needed more repair patches. When I went back to craft them, I noticed the ship needed some repair patches too. I thought I saw some smoke earlier. I took a little water break next and put more water in to purify, before getting distracted adding more rooms and catwalks onto the ship. That should give me a bit more room at least. Oh yeah, I was supposed to be scavenging this place. I repaired the loot box, thankful to find a few waters inside, then grabbed a few things through the bars of this building. The only entrance seemed to be this jump, and I just couldn't make myself take it. Instead, I decided to climb this branch and drop down inside. After looting it, though, I realized I couldn't climb back out of it. I took a big leap over the gap, and, well, that was that. Maybe now is a good time to take a guess. How many times do you think I'll fall? Just leave your guess in the comments. My game is set to normal difficulty, so I only lost a few things, and I'll be honest, I'm not even really sure what. But at least I didn't drop this new football I found. Disappointed with myself, I fueled up the engines and left this stupid tower for the next one. It was one of the overgrown lily pad towers, and I finally realized the giant pads were perfect to just set the whole airship down on, instead of trying to pull up to the edge. Ah, that was much easier.
Caution. A storm is coming.
With a storm approaching, I decided to stay inside for now, and built my first wall to make the quest go away. I suppose it would be smart to put walls up on this whole thing, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I was still struggling with food, with the ink bulbs not really helping much at all, so I went to fish when I found I couldn't lower my lure. I had to move the ship from the perfect little landing spot so I could catch some lunch. Oh yay, more rotten food. Just what I wanted. I sent it back down and added a new rainwater catcher, moving one of my water condensers beside it and putting the other away for now. My next catch was dust lettuce, which I put in to boil. I hadn't really expected hunger to be such a struggle in this game, but here I am, spending most of the day just trying to catch some dusty food. Luckily, when I went to explore this tower, I found a sun melon, which sounds a lot better than dust lettuce. The building here was covered in thorny vines, and when I scanned them, it suggested using a knife. Guess I need to get a knife. That would be nice. Instead, I hopped down to this ladder and climbed up it to find a power box guarded by bees. I opened it, but decided against getting the battery yet, instead hopping up these lily pads. At the top was a little grass plot with a note and these plants called patats. After picking them all, I thought about dropping in this hole for a moment, instead hopping down on the other side of the bees and going through the door. I searched the building to find mostly more of the same. As I left, I crouched by the bees, taking the battery. They didn't seem to care that I was shorter and stung me anyway. My immune system was still strong though, and I was fine aside from losing a little health. At the research station, I found the knife, but needed polymer to unlock it. Then, instead of eating that sun melon I found, I made this new advanced insect lure with it, hoping it might find me something even better to eat. Now, off to another tower. Late that night, I arrived at one of these wind farm towers, stopping further out so I could extract some of its copper bits, and then boiled up a tap for one of the most filling dinners I've had yet. I spent the whole morning working on food day 8 and learned if you boil the rotten food, it becomes a much more edible, overcooked meal. Then I added some new storage, moved my cooker, made another scanner because mine was dead, collected some water, and then added one more new storage. After that, I finally went to explore the tower, grabbing the battery first, then wandering around to find it was mostly just copper I needed to extract. There were some buildings down below to search at least. Outside, I grabbed a few loose helium tanks too, and then wished I had a portable extractor to get all this copper instead of needing to move my whole ship. In the other building, I remembered that I had a flashlight and cleared it out in no time. I did end up moving the ship to gather more of the copper on this tower. With 2 more circuit boards now, I used one to research circuit boards so I could make my own, and tried adding more deck to the ship. But apparently, I've reached the weight limit and I'll have to expand my balloon first, which is exactly what I started working on the next morning. I couldn't find it in my build tool. Turns out I'd missed a whole new tab in my research station. Once I researched it, I didn't have enough tanks left to make the expansion, so instead I used them for more research and headed off to the next tower. I extracted the copper first and then landed on the platform. It was just like the others mostly. Power box with battery, a room to search with some random junk, and just what I was looking for, more helium tanks. Time to blow up this balloon. Or just add in another piece, I guess. With that, I was back to following instructions and crafted this location radar. I hadn't forgotten about it, I'd just been too busy doing other things, like not starving. Once I placed it, I spent the night adding more to the ship, getting a tiny bit of rest in before morning. I started off day 10 with some overcooked rotten food before looting the rest of the tower. I found one more circuit board, which allowed me to research and craft this new tool charger. Now I'll be able to charge my scanner instead of just making a whole new one. I put the build tool into charge first, though, and gathered every bit of copper I could before getting back on the road. Using the new location radar, I was supposed to be going to one of the yellow markers. Instead, I was too interested in the question mark I saw and headed straight towards this very large tower with a flashing purple light. I used the lock speed option for the first time on my way, and let me tell you, that was a big mistake. As I got close, I thought I was still steering and waltzed myself right out of the ship. Well, make that 2 falls now. Good thing I didn't choose that permadeath option. My ship was still going when I respawned, and I turned it around to actually land this time. Apparently, this place is a new nature territory that leads down into the dust. On the platform, I found some plastic scrap, the usual battery, machine parts, a data card, and a porta-potty, and this blocked entrance. I scanned it to find I needed a charged crossbow bolt to get past it, and I still haven't even made a knife yet. I might be getting a bit ahead of myself. There was also some very large webs around the outside too. Not sure what makes those, but I'd like some weapons on me when I find out. On day 11, I charted my course for the exclamation mark this time, and all I could see in the distance was this big tree. That's not where we're going though. It's actually this place with the green flashing light. When I got there, I realized it was higher than my blimp would go, turning back around instead and heading to another overgrown tower. Time to add a second turbine. Well, after I checked this place out first, there were more vines here I couldn't cut. I still hadn't found any polymer to research that knife. Before I was done searching, a storm blew in, and as I hopped back to my ship, lightning struck just as I made this jump. Phew, I thought I'd fell again just for a moment. On the ship, I had to move my original turbine over to fit the new one. It's certainly not pretty, but should get the job done.
Maximum flight altitude increased.
With 2 turbines, I could reach the green light tower now. It was so foggy, though, I couldn't see and worked on some railings while I waited for it to clear. I extracted some stuff from the floaties, too, to make some plastic scrap for a circuit board to craft a second fabricator, which I completely forgot about when I went to the new tower the next morning. After an old canned water and overcooked food for breakfast, I noticed I was getting even sicker.
Virus activity is increasing. Threat of permanent immunodeficiency.
Better figure out this soon. It definitely isn't going to get any easier. On my way up, I scanned this wrecked docking plank, and gnarl stuff I won't even try to pronounce. In the first building I checked, there was a barrel full of plant oil, some new seeds, and behind them was that polymer I needed. Finally. Oh, I guess I could turn on my flashlight for this. The place was some sort of greenhouse and apparently a hideout for Noah, who may have known the cure. After searching 2 rooms on the first level, I ran into a door with a lock that needed a knife and another room I couldn't find my way into on the second, then went on up to the third to find a room blocked by vines and one with broken glass in the way. I walked right in thinking I just wouldn't be able to get through, instead getting stabbed. Well, it's out of the way now at least, and didn't do too much damage. I found a cute little garden gnome there and took it with me, then moved on to notice several more drawings on the floor, and my visor got a bit glitchy for a moment. Just past that, I tried to move this big door when it fell and knocked the immunity right out of me.
Immunity is decreasing. Diseases might become more severe.
That's not good. Looks like I'll have to be a little more careful now. Inside, I found a couple posters, a laptop needing power, and this flower. I could hear something that sounded like a bird as I went on to explore one more room. It was full of canola flowers that, of course, I needed a knife for. On my way out, I thought I'd jump over the broken glass, instead jumping my face right into some more. Yeah, I totally didn't see that there. Geez, this place is great, isn't it? Nervous about whatever animal was making that sound, I decided to go back to my ship for a bit to use the polymer I'd found to make a knife. I researched the polymer itself first before putting out a poster and the gnome I'd found, placed that second fabricator I'd forgotten about, then finally researched a knife. I needed more plastic scrap to craft it though, and moved the ship to extract some synthetics for that. Watch out, I've got a weapon now. I watched the sun go down with it and decided to add a second extractor too. Maybe if I have one on both sides, I won't have to move the ship all the time. I started off the next morning with breakfast and headed back into the greenhouse with my new knife. I could cut down these colander things now and break the lock on this door, where I found some crossbow bolts and an old oil distiller to scan. I couldn't get through this door though. It was locked from the inside where the crazy looking gnarl was. Next, I went into a big greenhouse room where I cut down this coffee nut and found some more plants. Tried ducking under some glass on its second level unsuccessfully. Oh, you used the knife on that too. Got it. At the top, I was disappointed to find only more coffee nuts and lobster peppers. My inventory was too full for anything new anyway, though, so I grabbed them and took everything back to the ship. All my storage was full too, so I made another box, then tested out cooking one of these big colanders I'd found. It had the highest food I'd found yet, so much that I saved it for later when my hunger would be lower. I boiled the others too and put my scanner on to charge, hanging out at the ship for a while doing random things until heading back to the tower again that night. I could still hear the animal, but hadn't found it yet, so I cut my way through these vines next and got some biomass. I cautiously broke into the room above the one with the gnarl growing inside. It was full of vines I cut through and rotten food, along with a bit of the gnarl growing through from an opening in the floor. I grabbed the posters and tried jumping over the rail into the lower room with no luck, heading upstairs instead to find an interesting note about master plans and animals. I hope they're right about that no animals under the smog thing. I'm pretty sure there's something alive on this tower though, other than me. I scanned this new water tank and a big garden pot before breaking my way out onto a ledge I couldn't reach before. I followed it around, hopping down to this balcony, and then down a ladder, hoping to get inside the lowest room. But there still wasn't a way in. Only the opening with the gnarl and broken docking platform. Dang, I figured that was the way.
Hydration level is decreasing.
After all that, I was thirsty and clearly too tired to think, because instead of drinking this water, I ate a raw colander. And now I've got gastroenteritis. Great. I went back to the computer next, hacking through a mess of vines to a power box I didn't have a battery for. Back to the ship again. I was still thirsty anyway, with the sickness making it worse. I guess with my weaker immunity, raw foods are a no-go. To cure the gastro issue, I could get the flour to research this electrolyte pill, but I think it's wearing off on its own already. So I researched some other stuff instead and took a nap, hoping to sleep it off. I found a few batteries in storage, but still sick, I decided to stay at the ship the next morning until it wore off, and spent the day decorating, rearranging things, and building. If I don't expand, I won't have anywhere to put all this new stuff. I was almost done when my gastroenteritis finally wore
The
off,
virus was neutralized.
and placed a couple more things before heading back to the tower again as the sun set. This time I went all the way to the top first, where there'd been a battery all along, and the animal sound was louder than ever. I was positive at this point it was some sort of bird, until I saw this little critter pop out of the ground. It was so loud I should have known it was a cricket, but since when do they make that sound? I was terrified it was going to jump on me, and approached very cautiously, slashing with my knife. Sorry, buddy. I cut the grass around it for biomass, grabbed this note about soil, and climbed back down for a bit of deja vu when I crashed through this big metal door again. I stuck a battery in the power box this time and powered up the computer, reading a very interesting note from Noah with coordinates to a surface lift. Finishing up for the night, I collected a little more biomass and cut down several canola flowers, then got some revenge on this glass that cut me when I left. Most of day 16 I spent gathering every last bit of grass I could find, and trying again to get in the crazy room with the gnarl. Then I took one final trip to gather all the dirty water I could to put in my new water tank, and finished the day extracting more synthetics to fuel up the engines before calling it a night. Still sitting at the greenhouse, I started day 17 with a few final touches on my ship, staying there to spend the day to stock up on synthetics and metal flying by, and to craft this oil distiller. I started some plant oil from the canola flowers with it, and as the sun set that evening, I set off for the next marker. I set the speed towards the marker and let go very carefully of the wheel to go place this big garden pot. I also noticed the oil was done and started some fertilizer next, happy to have a better use for all that rotten food I keep catching. As I approached the marker, I could see this big place with some sort of portal-looking thing on top, but when I got close, I realized I couldn't get high enough to land on it. Time for another turbine. I sat down at the next tower instead and refueled my engines first, planted a colander seed in the big pot, and checked out the tower I'd ended up at. It was similar to the other purple light one I'd been to before. I grabbed the battery, some plastic scrap, and dirty water, then found this one also had a door that needed a crossbow. I tried my knife, but it wouldn't reach, and I gave up before heading back to the ship. That's okay, I'm supposed to be at another tower anyway. I added the new turbine right in the middle of the others and took off back to the place with the ring on top. It was a very large landing area made from old shipping containers, and as I started to explore, I found a note about some unstable construction. Looks like whatever lab used to be here was now down there. Inside, it was mostly just rubble and this old computer, I followed its cord up a ladder, then decided to take another ladder before following it into this hole. I found a battery and walked this beam as far as it would let me before turning around and jumping back down, where I finally dropped down in the hole and found the cord led to this station that required an access module. I didn't realize I needed to scan it and hopped down to finish exploring the building. I went all the way back up again and dropped into the second floor where I found some random fuel and a ship workstation to scan. I'll take that plastic scrap there too, thanks. Back at my ship, I realized I'd gotten too good at ignoring the directions up here. Oh yeah, I was supposed to scan that thing. Better go do that. I scanned the computer too, just in case, and then ran back to research and craft the access module. Now we're talking. I climbed the ladder one last time and put in the module, which powered the computer and an elevator that leads down under the dust. Sounds fun and all, but I really should get some rest first. Maybe tomorrow. I went back the next morning, straight into the elevator. It had this organic printer, which made a few things, some empty storage, and these big red arrow buttons. Down we go. Sorry I didn't watch the window longer. I was afraid of what might come through the door. It hit the bottom though, and the door opened to a room full of nothing but plants. I poked my head in, far enough to scan this energy crystal, then a bit further for this epoxy when I hit the dust. It freaked me out even though I knew I already had a small oxygen tank equipped. After calming down, I cautiously went back out to scan this dust daisy next, grabbed them all to take back for research, and then was disappointed to find this shiny blue plant was nothing special. My mood turned around though when I scanned this shiny red upgrade station. Very nice. I took a quick oxygen break in the elevator and scanned the stuff in there too, using all its battery before I could scan whatever this power thing is. Dang it. At this point, I started hearing some sort of animal, and all of a sudden this felt more like a horror game with me jumping at every little sound. The added stress of watching my oxygen while trying not to get lost wasn't helping any either, but I gathered as much as I could carry anyway. When I felt like I had enough to go back up, I was relieved and pretty happy to see the inside of my ship. I used the energy crystals I'd found to research an upgraded tool charger, portable extractor, crystal battery, and crystal fuel. Then I spent the night moving things around for this new ship workstation. I don't know what I expected it to craft, but this table and chair was not it. I didn't go back under the dust the next day, instead staying at the ship crafting the different pieces I need to make the new extractor I'd unlocked. When it was done, I grabbed a quick breakfast and headed inside the building to test it out, and it was pretty darn great. I'll be able to extract stuff from under the dust now too. I'd been putting it off, but decided to finally add a second level to my ship that evening. I was a bit worried about making it harder to land and maneuver, but I wasn't having much luck with that anyway. I added this ladder room I'd grabbed a data card for, then just a couple rooms for now, sorta like a cargo area. With all the new stuff I'd found under the dust, I was struggling with places to put it all. Then I spent the rest of the night labeling things with these sticky notes. It was back to the elevator on day 21. I'd charged my scanner, though I hadn't realized how low my new extractor's battery was until I got down there. I saved the last bit in case I found something blocking my way, and continued exploring and gathering things. I also figured out that this electric thing is an oxygen station that takes a crystal battery, so I won't have to run all the way back to the elevator now. I was supposed to be looking for Noah's lab, but I just wanted to explore everything first. Like these bugs here I couldn't scan. They were actually just more of the thorn bees, but their nest was somewhere I couldn't see, and tried attacking them. Instead though, they attacked me, leaving me with meningitis, which apparently causes hallucinations. I continued exploring for a while anyway, things occasionally going all purple hazy on me. Maybe I should take a break and go get some more crystal batteries anyway.
Hot termites under ribs.
What was that again? I started crafting more crystal batteries while I was there and started working on the brain cleanser cure for my sickness, but I didn't have all the stuff I needed to craft it. At this point, it's going to wear off before I'll be able to grow the coffee nut and lobster pepper I need, and decided I'd at least be prepared for the next time though, rearranging things to add 2 new big garden pots.
The virus was neutralized.
It wore off the next day, leaving me extra tired after and ready for a nap, so I took one and then headed that evening back down into the dust. I used my newly charged extractor to gather a bunch of stuff and tried to figure out where I hadn't been yet. I definitely haven't been this way, but I don't think I want meningitis again just yet. Instead, I found another oxygen station and put in a battery. Beside it was a ramp guarded by a very unfriendly looking flower. I thought about slashing it with my knife, but was afraid it might eat me, and instead cut some of these much less dangerous looking dust daisies. Well, maybe one little slash won't hurt, and it didn't. Me or the plant. I went on to find another similar area, plugging in a crystal battery and finding 2 more places blocked by the crazy plant. I suppose it would probably help if I scanned one of them. Turns out it's called an ice dew, and you have to have a hypothermia booster to get past it. The sun was up when I got out of the elevator, and I spent the next day on the ship doing random things.
Completed.
Back under the dust, I was really looking for the lab now, and ended up thinking I'd already been up this ladder somehow. It was at this point I'm pretty sure I lost the plot. I looked all over trying to find the lab, but only managed to find more meningitis. Deciding it must be past one of the creepy plants, I headed back to my ship to start searching for the hypothermia booster I needed to get past them. First though, I think I need to clean my brain. I was prepared this time with all the plants I needed, making the brain cleanser and curing my meningitis in no time.
The virus was neutralized.
I left on day 25, hoping to find something new to research the booster, turning my ship towards this purple light tower that was a question mark on my map, and set down on it to find nothing but an empty locker. I didn't see any way to get inside and flew around the whole thing before landing on top this time. There was nothing on the roof at all, except for some plants and sketchy edges. I'm probably not even supposed to be here. After checking it out a little more, I spotted a bunch of blue cords and an old docking plank hanging out of the bottom, then tried my best to wiggle my ship in there, but it was a lost cause and I gave up, heading to another wind farm tower instead. I spent the rest of the day scavenging everything on it, hoping maybe to find something on a data card. They seem to just be full of building blueprints though, which is nice and all, just not what I'm looking for. It was off to another question mark tower on day 26. I swear I'll learn how to park this thing eventually. The tower was different, but also mostly the same. I found all the usual stuff and this comfy cushion to scan, along with a note on the wall about forests. That evening, I took off to yet another tower, and I did park a bit better this time, setting my deck right down on its roof by the power box. Then I climbed down to find this awful thing called a crustipede. It was easy enough to slash with my knife. I know what I'm having for dinner tonight. I cleared out the building, finding a few more data cards, then climbed down this sketchy branch to find nothing but synthetics and plastic scrap. Now get in the pot, Mr. Crustipede. Too bad I don't have any butter. I went back the next morning to the mysterious place with all the hanging cords, trying again to get my ship pulled up in some sort of way so I could get in the opening. This platform kept smashing into the cords though, so I just deleted it for a moment. Then once I got close enough, built it back with one more tube. I hadn't researched the docking plank yet, which would have helped a lot here. That's okay, I figured it out anyway. I slashed through some vines before getting hit with one of the worst coughs I'd had yet.
Warning. Critical condition. The risk of death is increasing.
That's not good. I wasn't sure if it was something here that had caused it, and cautiously continued further inside. Nothing else happened though, and I started scanning. First, this advanced access terminal, and next, this dead guy. Looks like another elevator to the surface. I didn't have the module I needed though, and started searching the building as it stormed away inside. After clearing out the bottom floor, I was struggling to find a way to the second floor, eventually climbing up on some shipping containers and doing a bit of parkour. Up here, I found a very sketchy place with a loot box, which had some new motion detectors I hadn't seen before. Then I scavenged the rest for some other random stuff when my backpack got full, giving myself a mini heart attack when I almost fell on my way back. I finally put some storage in the rooms down below and plugged in a fresh battery to charge my tools before going in again that night. I went up the ladder this time, then jumped across the gap to get to the other side. It was mostly the same except for this locked room I could jump to. After breaking the lock there, I made my way back up and jumped across to fight the bee's nest inside. Once it was dealt with, I was rewarded with this nice fuel tank to scan. Ooh, that could be useful. I followed a vine to the top of the room next for a broken loot box, but I was out of repair patches. So I made a quick run to the ship, dropping a few things off and grabbing some patches. This time I fell off the big vine on my first 2 attempts climbing back to the top. I didn't die though, so these don't count. Finally made it on my next try. Guess it's true, 3rd time's the charm. The loot box held more motion sensors, at least for my trouble, and I got some copper from these wires. I took another look at the access station after that and the elevator, hadn't found anything for the advanced access module I needed to use it, and finally decided I must have missed something back at the first elevator. Early on day 30, I made my way back to it and took the elevator down again, where I looked really hard at the lab signs and saw these shining rays of light highlighting a big yellow ladder, immediately feeling pretty dumb. It obviously has to be up there. I think I just got caught up in exploring before and thought I'd already checked it. But when I made it up the ladder, another sign assured me I was right, and I started grabbing all the goodies. There was more epoxy that I needed to research the docking plank, an oxygen station, and some metal walls I extracted that opened up another path with even more signs. I followed them up a very questionable path, watching my oxygen closely, eventually making it to the top where I finally found Noah's lab. My screen glitched as I stepped inside, and I grabbed some strange looking plant things before stepping right over a crystal battery in the floor to this oxygen station. Darn it, I'm all out of crystal batteries. Better rush back down to the last one and ignore that battery in the floor. Good thing we're only counting deaths and not all the dumb mistakes I make. I found it when I went back and plugged it in, gathering everything in the lab and scanning these virus analyzer machines. Then taking a deep breath before making my way back down. I went straight back to the elevator, excited about the new information. This is surely what I needed to get past those crazy flowers. I researched the virus analyzer first, then used most of the epoxy I'd found to research the docking plank, only to turn around and find I didn't have enough epoxy to craft the analyzer or the plank. Daggone it. I researched the plant thing, a medical reagent, next. Epoxy was there to research too, but I needed plant resin, which I hadn't found yet. One thing leads to another though, I'll get there eventually. I went back down before the sun came up the next morning, hoping to find some epoxy I'd missed. I only found one, but did end up finding this medium-sized oxygen tank. Oh, sorry there, Mr. Dead Guy. Didn't mean to extract you. I just wanted to scan this oxygen tank here, please. A bit of searching later, I gave up and went to the ship for a nap. Guess I'll have to go find some more epoxy or the plant resin I need to make it somewhere else. In my search, the first tower I ended up at was called a small town and had paint splattered all around it along with paint cans on the ground. I couldn't pick up the cans, but I did gather several of these paint cartridges and this paint tool. I explored the place all through the night, finding a king-size bed I know I don't have the space for, and this moth vivarium. I tried to use the paint tool the next morning, but didn't get much done. Instead, expanding my balloon again so I could build more soon. Then it was off to another tower. This one didn't hold anything new. I do love these little decorative things I found though. On day 33, I headed through the mountains as the sun rose, towards this question mark on my map. There looked to be lots of plants on it, and I hoped maybe the plant resin would be here to research epoxy. Setting down my ship, I ended up way too high the first time, and put in a door on the lower floor to double check. Yep, that's definitely not close enough. I set it down all the way the next time, walking out the new door to find more drawings and this shipping crate building with a very interesting note. It said I needed an immunity booster to go in this place, unless I want to die. Well, I don't really want to die. That place does look pretty creepy. Maybe I'll just build on my ship for a while. Later that night, I decided I had to at least check it out, and made my way up the steps when I got this notification.
High contamination zone. Risk of immediate death. Abandon the area.
Yeah, immediate death doesn't sound great. Maybe I should wait. I stopped by another of the purple light towers next. With the entrance, I needed a crossbow to get past. Then another wind farm with copper to scavenge. I was on a bit of a wild goose chase at this point, just hoping I might happen upon some epoxy or plant resin. This interesting place got my hopes up on day 36, and I spent most of the day just trying to find my way inside it. I didn't find the epoxy or resin, but I did find this large freezer I could scan. Oh, my food going rotten has been quite the problem. I could definitely use that. As I was leaving that tower, I spotted a different exclamation point on the edge of my map, arriving that afternoon at another elevator tower that looked just like the one with Noah's lab. The other tower like this was the only place I'd found epoxy so far. I just hadn't thought to look for another Noah's lab. I figured there'd only be one. I got prepared making more crystal batteries and taking a nap before heading into the elevator the next morning. Until this point, I wasn't really sure that I hadn't accidentally ended up back at the same elevator as before, but when the door didn't open, I was sure. I had to make a new access module to unlock it, and down we went again. It was all exactly the same as the other, and I scavenged all the epoxy I could find. Despite having scanned the medium oxygen tank, I still hadn't made it yet because I needed more epoxy for the upgrade station too. I came back up as the sun was going down, debating over what to make first, eventually going with the virus analyzer. I placed it downstairs in my newly expanded, very dark basement. I wasn't sure what to put in it and tried the medical reagent plant thing first, then ended up looking through these tabs in my menu when that didn't work. Ah, there we go. Looks like I need to use thornbee honey to extract meningitis for the hypothermia booster. After that, I was presented with a puzzle I didn't completely understand, eventually getting it right and managing to extract the virus with a bit of trial and error. I needed one of the reagents and more meningitis to craft it. Thankfully, I didn't have to do the puzzle again to extract it, and just like that, I had the hypothermia booster I'd been trying to get for so long. I made a second one just in case. Who knows how long they last? Then, tired of going up and down this ladder, I added some new stuff downstairs before taking the elevator and going back under the dust. I made my way straight to the crazy flower, stabbed myself with the hypothermia booster, and walked right past it. Well, that was easy enough.
New environment detected.
It led to some tunnels full of creepy-looking plants, and I was trying to be careful not to get lost. After removing this metal, though, I ended up completely panicked trying to find my way back to an oxygen station. I ended up going up this ladder next and found the plant resin I'd been looking for, then used this new oxygen booster I'd made too, and started checking out the new area. There were a ton of energy crystals here, and a room with a crashed airship inside, then something called repair foam, and a data card for a repair thrower. Yeah, I don't think that repair foam works very well. I knew there still had to be more and wandered into this place next, when this horrible bug tried to sneak up. I shot it with my extractor, but some sort of shield appeared just in time as more arrived.
Beware, my children. They do not like intruders. Continue on Noah's path. He has a gift for you.
Why does Noah's path have to go this way?
The key to the future of your species is to be found in the mistakes of your ancestors.
I guess if I don't, we'll all die though, so there's that. As I cleared these big vines, I had the worst coughing fit yet, and my immunity dropped once more.
Vulnerability to viruses rises.
Oh, fun. Untreated illnesses will now become chronic. Oh, look, there's Noah. The path must have been pretty rough on him. His tablet was there too, and an old crossbow. Then this cute little critter. Certainly a nice palate cleanser after all that horribleness. Speaking of awful, I scanned the big bug too, an impious mantis. It says you should avoid direct contact, but I have a feeling that might not be an option. On my way out, I couldn't pass up this extra thornbee honey, ending up with meningitis again from my new weakened immunity.
The virus overcame the virus infection detected.
Oops. Back at the ship, I was excited to start research on the crossbow first, then used the plant resin to research epoxy. The crossbow was easy enough to craft. Now if only I had something to shoot with it. Better take this brain cleanser first.
The virus was neutralized.
Hallucinations and crossbows probably don't get along very well. I had enough epoxy now for an upgrade machine too, and immediately upgraded my oxygen tank. Then my tool charger, which takes one of the crystal batteries now and charges way faster. Then planted some dust daisies next, which I needed to make my own plant resin. As I left, I heard the voice again.
Few mistakes of your kind, but protect yourself first.
And got a new quest to go to the infected greenhouse. I'm pretty sure that's the place with the immediate death I stopped by before. Maybe I'll go see what's at one of these other towers first. I landed at one of the lower purple lights, but didn't get out yet. Instead, taking a puzzle break and trying to extract this virus from the lobster pepper. I figured out how it worked better now, and had the gastroenteritis virus in no time. I used it to unlock this hydration booster I'll probably never even make, then got out to start exploring. This was one of the towers with the bug gunk stuff outside, and an entrance that requires a crossbow. Know who's got a crossbow now? Me! I shot the target, opening the door, finding what looked like the remnants of someone. Don't guess this money did them much good, huh? Further inside, there was more of the usual stuff scattered around, then a path that headed all the way down. After the giant mantis bugs I'd just met, I was really cautious as I started exploring everything, finding these new summer balm and diver pearls fruits. Then looked down into this very green, foggy area. I didn't hear anything, but felt like as soon as I went in, something was going to jump out and scare me. Or eat me. And I just don't think I'm ready for that. So I spent most of day 41 upgrading things on the ship instead. The insect catcher, both engines, and 2 of my turbines. I also extracted the pyrexia virus from some dirty water and researched liquid oxygen from the diver's pearl fruit. Then finally researched the plant resin too. Unsure about going down this tower yet, I decided I should go see what it wanted me to do at the infected greenhouse next. With my new upgraded engines, I was there in no time, though I crashed my ship into something as I was landing, not realizing I wasn't quite on the ground until I'd already jumped out. It wouldn't give me a prompt to climb back aboard this time. I guess that only works on the catwalk pieces. And my building tool is on the charger right there, and I can't reach it. So I tried to jump from this railing instead. After a couple tries, I was almost out of med packs and ended up using the unstuck option in the menu to get back on my ship, setting it down correctly this time. Definitely gonna have to add a lower deck soon. My quests were already directing me to another location because I'd been here before, but I couldn't resist going up this ramp again just to see what would happen. I went further this time, and as I got closer to the building, I took a big hunk of damage.
Back away, Ordine.
Okay, I believe it now. Guess it's off to a wild habitat location next, which happens to be the tower with the bug gunk I was at before. Looks like I have to get some chitin from here, and I'm betting I know what's down in that green fog now. So that evening, I took an energy drink and headed back in the tower. Feeling pretty secure, at least, that I was safe until I got closer to the bottom, I tried to find a good spot to see from when I fell through the old floor and right into the fog.
Warning, entering into toxic zone.
After realizing I was fine though and nothing had eaten me, I took a deep breath and went back down. The green made it hard to see and everything looked a bit like an alien to me. It was all nothing though until I headed into this tunnel where I definitely saw something moving up ahead. I backed out and took a quick breather, pretty sure it was one of the giant mantises I'd seen before, then gathered my courage and made myself go in again. I couldn't see it anymore, which I think might actually be worse, so I stuck my head out the end of the tunnel and hoped with everything I had it couldn't fit through the gap. It shot some sort of acid at me as I ducked back in the tunnel. Luckily, it didn't follow me. Whether it was too big or too dumb, I don't know, but after I got a couple shots in, it managed to hit me once, leaving me with some sort of infection. Hemorrhage fever, to be exact, which decreases HP over time and stops HP regen too. Determined to defeat the big bug though, I used a health pack and went back anyway. Continuing our game of peekaboo. I see you. I wasn't sure if there were more and carefully collected its chitin, taking a quick look around before deciding I should probably go back up for now. I took the chitin straight to the virus extractor to extract the hemorrhage fever I was suffering with. The puzzle was easy this time, and after completing it, I went straight to research the cure. I had just enough of the summer balm fruit to unlock it, but not enough to craft it, and it wasn't long it turned chronic.
Virus infection detected.
Well, darn it. Chronic diseases have stronger symptoms and won't heal without treatment, which means I won't be able to wait this one out. Better get to work on growing some summer balm. While I waited, I used the virus to research a blood booster for reduced damage. I could only research part of the immunity booster for now. It needed glowweed and siren fruit I didn't have yet. So I took a little nap next and then set off for another tower. My quests were sending me to something called a new nature territory next. Instead though, I went searching for some blueprints I've missed. I'd unlocked a large freezer forever ago that was teasing me in the upgrade station, but still hadn't found the small one I needed to make it. This first tower didn't really have anything, other than a nice jump scare with a new disease.
Virus overcame the virus infection detected.
Great, now I've got pyrexia too, whatever that is. At least I got dinner out of the deal though. The pyrexia was easy enough to cure with some capsaicin from a lobster pepper. Then, after traveling to a wind farm tower the next day, the fruit I needed was finally done and I was able to cure my fever.
The virus was neutralized.
Spending the rest of the day building on the ship. Gotta get some deck down here so I can climb aboard if I land wrong again. On day 46, I started exploring early that morning, finding plenty of places to test my fear of heights. Or is it actually a fear of falling? I don't know, but I don't like it either way. It ended up being worth it though. Look what I found. That freezer. I scanned it and went back to the ship to research and craft it. Now I've just got to find somewhere to put it. I rearranged a few things and put it by my plants, collecting all my food to store inside it. It's supposed to keep food from rotting as fast, which should help me to keep stuff on hand for medicine too. I stayed up all night moving stuff around. Space was becoming an issue again, and I needed somewhere to plant these diver pearl fruits to turn into liquid oxygen. I took a big nap the next morning before heading off to yet another question mark tower. This one was sure interesting looking. There was a building with a big hole and a broken docking plank like I've seen before, which appeared to be the only way inside. I parked on the landing pad first, grabbing some helium and the battery before going back to the ship, where I finally made myself a docking plank. I'd put off making one before, using the epoxy for more important things. I was making my own now though, and had plenty to spare. I carefully pulled the ship up to the side of the building and stuck out the plank. It took a bit of adjusting, both the plank and the ship, but eventually I was able to walk right inside. I should have made one of these a long time ago. I ransacked the place for the usual stuff, and at the top found something new to scan hanging from the ceiling. A recycler. That could be useful. I started its research and then finally headed off to the nature territory I was supposed to be going to. When I arrived, I realized it was one of the doors blocked by some crazy looking electric growing stuff, that I needed a charge bolt for my crossbow to break it. But to research those, I needed a dust firecracker fruit that I hadn't found yet. Well, off we go again. I started off the next day accidentally eating a raw sunmelon for breakfast instead of the one I'd just boiled, leaving me with gastroenteritis again. With my weakened immunity, I knew it would turn chronic, so I went to check what I needed to cure it. Looks like it's the electrolyte pill, but I don't have a patat to craft it, and no seeds to grow any either. Guess it's time for another side quest. As my virus turned chronic, I set off in search of a patat plant or seed, despite finding some other interesting things.
The virus was new.
The first 3 towers I searched had nothing I needed. A couple days in, and tired of fighting my increased hunger and thirst, I found another of these greenhouse towers. Full of hope, I worked my way through it, searching every room, until I finally found exactly what I was looking for, guarded by this little guy. I'll take that, thank you. I took it back to make the pill to finally cure myself,
The virus was neutralized.
and put the critter in the cooker for dinner. The next morning, I finished up with clearing out the tower, but this place had another of the rooms I couldn't get into, full of these gnarls. I've got a docking plank now, though. Maybe I can get inside. Pulling up to the opening was no easy task, leaving me a lot further away than I'd wanted. I was assuming the docking plank wouldn't even reach, but was pleasantly surprised when it went out and right into the hole. Oh, very nice.
High contamination zone. Risk of immediate death. Abandon the area.
Miss Computer Voice didn't think so, though, so I tried to adjust the plank to stay farther away from the gnarls. Nope, and nope.
Back away, Ordine.
Guess I'll have to come back once I have the immunity booster and try again. Early on day 54, I was back at another of the new nature towers, hoping that maybe this one would have a different thing blocking the door. But it was the exact same electric-looking growth as before. I was struggling a bit at this point, trying to figure out what to do, ending up going back to one of the elevators that led under the dust to Noah's lab. To unlock the charge bolt, I needed the dust firecracker fruit, and assumed I must have missed it somewhere. Let me go ahead and tell you, it was not there. I spent a whole 2 days looking for it, searching every nook and cranny, finding only the same stuff from before until early on day 56, when I found this bigger storage box to scan. That might make the trip worth it at least. Oh, and that reminds me, I should make that recycler I found and one of these large freezer upgrades too. Despite my excitement about the extra storage, I still didn't have the fruit I needed to unlock the charge bolt, deciding this time that I must have missed something in the place with the mantis and spent the day looking for a tower I could get into. Disappointingly, both of the ones I found were blocked with the same electro vines I couldn't get through. At the end of the day, I wound up at another question mark location before calling it a night. The next day, I started exploring it, and at first it looked mostly the same, until I noticed a much bigger building under it, with something big and red inside. I was surprised that my scanner could reach it, and even more surprised when I found out what it was: an automatic extractor. I finished looting the place anyway, spending the whole rest of the day and part of another trying to discover all of its mysteries. It was probably the biggest tower I'd been to yet, aside from the places that you go under the dust. Once I'd scavenged everything I could, I got right to work making my new automatic extractor. And look at it go. As I headed towards the next tower, it was gathering things all on its own. I landed at another wind farm that day, mostly just to get the battery there, except I just couldn't help myself and looted the rest of the place too. By day 60, I finally found another of the bug towers, the one with the boogers outside instead of webs. I shot the target to open the door, and inside I went. It was exactly the same as the one before, and I picked up the parts and random things laying around before making my way down. To add to the feeling of deja vu, I even managed to fall through the rebar again into the dust. Whoops.
Entering the toxic zone.
After that, I took a moment to get myself together. Pretty sure there isn't anything dangerous until I go through the tunnel.
Entering the toxic zone.
But this place still gives me the heebie-jeebies. Too bad though, I've got to save the world. So in we go. The big bug was waiting just like before, ready for a game of peekaboo. I was pretty thankful it didn't seem to be able to get through the tunnel, since I've only got this crossbow. I have a feeling it won't always be that easy though. I defeated it easily enough and took a big breath before coming back to gather the chitin, hoping I might find something I'd missed before. It was so easy to find, I think I must have just been distracted last time and didn't even explore the place at all. There was an oxygen station and a path leading down to more creepy crawlies. I could see them through the walls and worried they might get through this bigger opening when I got their attention, but they really must not be very smart because both of them just stood behind the barrier and stuck their heads up, spitting acid at me as I shot them in the face. After defeating them both quickly enough, I drank some liquid oxygen instead of going back up, then continued very cautiously to explore. I wasn't sure if there were more mantis and felt a lot less safe out in the open, but luckily I didn't run into any more. Down here, there was another building blocked off by more of the electric stuff, and this oxygen station, along with a crashed ship and a different type of dead mantis. And then finally, the thing I'd been looking for, a dust firecracker fruit. Or its seeds, at least. I'll have to take them back up to the ship to grow them first. I also found my first fiberglass here, which I'd been needing for a few different things. And this little cactus called a moss needle. I dropped some machine parts so I could carry it and went back up to the ship. I used the extra chitin I'd picked up to research chitin armor first, crafting it with more chitin and these moss needles, then got straight to planting those firecracker seeds. While I waited for them to grow, I did some building on the ship and used that fiberglass for a fuel tank. It's supposed to supply 2 engines at once. I just didn't realize you needed pipes for it to work yet. By then, the firecracker fruit was done, and I was finally able to research and craft my first charge bolts. Early the next morning, I went back down, still cautious and unsure if anything would have respawned. Well, guess that's my answer. Hello there. I didn't want to waste any of the new bolts, knowing how easy this one was to defeat, and then headed back down to the next area, only to find the other 2 hadn't respawned. Well, no complaints from me. With my new charge bolts, I busted through this blockage on the door, finding a note and this thing called an artifact trading station behind it. Looks like I can sell all those random decorations I'd been finding here to trade for different blueprints. I really like all of my posters, but it's totally worth it if I can get a better backpack. I continued through the rest of this place, eventually finding a blocked off shipping crate. I unblocked it for a nice surprise, this dead guy. No, I'm kidding, it's actually what he's holding, an upgraded crossbow. Thank you, sir. Having explored everything pretty well, I went back up and gathered some stuff to sell at the trading station. There were a few things I had doubles of anyway, and took those down first. You can only sell 7 things here, so I sold all I could and brought back this tactical backpack blueprint. I'd hoped it was a new backpack for me, but when I got back to the ship, I found it was actually for a pet. I tried to put out that friendly insect I'd found with Noah, wondering if it was a pet. I just couldn't figure out what to do with it. Instead, making my new upgraded crossbow, and you know what? Maybe I'll add a window. I arrived back at the new nature territory again the next day, where I can finally get through this door. It was similar to the other place, dead people in hazmat suits and a bunch of books this time instead of cash, and on the inside a path down to the dust, with this webbling larva web all around instead of the green boogers the last place had. I was terrified of finding whatever makes it and jumped right out of my skin when I almost walked into this crustipede. Excuse you. At the bottom, I kept looking around for anything moving. When I spotted this strange-looking thing, I scanned it to find it was a webbling larva nest. It was creepy to say the least, and I took a moment to prepare myself before taking a shot at it. Ready for it to attack, it just died instead. One charge bolt was enough to take it out, and I was sure glad. It reminded me of a giant lobster as I collected the chitin from it, then took a quick oxygen break before continuing to explore. I eventually made my way down these stairs and used a scanner to spot another webbling nest, shot it too, then made my way around the corner to find another one. Stressed out and struggling with oxygen, I went back up to make some of the liquid stuff. I spent a good chunk of the morning napping and then waited around for the rest of the day while the old distiller made the liquid oxygen I needed. At least I found something for dinner while I was down there. I went back down on day 67, thankful to find nothing had respawned. Now if I can just figure out where I'm supposed to go. It seems like the only option is up, so up I went. The liquid oxygen made it a lot easier. I still hadn't seen a single oxygen station down here. At the top, I could see a path to another area, and got my scanner out to be safe. Looks like the only thing is one of these new fruits I need for the immunity booster. Finally! There was another new fruit too, but none of the glowweed yet. Plenty of fiberglass though. I'll take all of that, please. There was finally an oxygen station here and another of the trading machines. Then I finally spotted the glowweed. I kept running out of space as I was gathering things, so it was an extra nice surprise when I ran into this backpack to scan. I got straight to work on researching the immunity booster the next day, then the backpack module. Thankfully, this one is for me and not a pet. I did a bit of virus extraction next and made 2 of the immunity boosters, then took a few artifacts down to trade. If you get up to trading tier 3, you can buy a large backpack module, but with the limit on selling things, that's gonna take a while. It took me through the next morning to clear everything out. Then I set back off to the infected Gnarl Tower. It was quite far away, but it didn't take very long to get there with my upgraded engines, and as soon as I arrived, my auto-extractor got straight to work. Not exactly eager to return to the Tower of Immediate Death, I stayed inside for the night, filling up on food and making this cool crystal lamp. By the next morning, I was mentally prepared and stabbed myself with the immunity booster before following the ramp inside. It still seemed a bit sketchy, but I didn't get the immediate death warning this time. Still hurts if you touch the stuff, though. I didn't find much until this big glowing thing called a preternatural flower. I shot it down and got some seeds, then went up the stairs to find this sprinkler to scan. On the 3rd floor was a lab with a new medical station to scan too, along with several medicines and a laptop to power up, with some very important info about this plant that might be the key to the cure. Continuing to explore after that, I found these pipes to scan. I was wondering how those sprinklers would work. I found another of the flowers to shoot, but there was one more to find here to completely decontaminate the tower. Looking at the roots of the gnarl, I could see that some were still glowing dangerously, and tried to find the source of the last one. After a bit of detective work, I eventually noticed a glow coming from the opening of this pipe. There it is. I carefully climbed inside, hoping not to fall, and crawled up it to take out the final contamination source.
All contamination sources in the area are neutralized.
That was fun. Back at the ship, I crafted a hologram of the evolved flora I needed, using the info from the laptop, then placed it on this shelf to study.
Data detected in the hologram's memory. Turn it on to encrypted data ready for research.
I was sad to find I had to pick it back up to use it for research. It was so pretty, but I guess it's worth it to save the world.
Research finalized.
Researching it unlocked the advanced pass component I needed to get to the second elevator I'd found before. One day I'll learn to follow instructions. On day 71, I made the new medical station, placing it downstairs, then spent a very peaceful day reorganizing everything and building. I want to put in those new sprinklers, but things are a bit of a mess in here. After working through the night, I slept most of day 72, hanging around in the airship again the rest of the day, rearranging more things. Then setting off for the new location marker that night. I arrived early the next morning to find myself at one of the advanced access elevator towers. Once I got pulled up to the opening, I put out the new docking plank. Then, as it started to rain, I made my way inside. I'd already explored one of these and only grabbed a few things before setting my sights on the elevator. Oh yeah, I gotta make the pass first. Back to the ship. I needed a circuit board and some polymer. Then I was able to make the pass component and turn it into the access pass. With my amazing auto extractor, I had plenty of synthetics and metal for anything I needed to make. I decided to sleep a bit first before venturing below into the dust again. Setting out on day 74, ready for some excitement. The excitement got started early as I had a coughing fit entering the elevator. Excuse me, just dying here. No big deal.
Warning. Critical condition. The risk of death is increasing.
When this elevator hit the bottom, I was nervous again, very cautiously making my way outside the safety of its walls.
Warning. Entering into toxic zone.
Even my own cough spooked me here. The place was so open, I felt a lot less secure. At least before, I had a little bit of cover from the giant bugs. Looking around, I spotted a few more of the ice dew plants, watching carefully for anything moving. Then things got creepy quick when I turned around and turned back to see a mantis there. I have no idea where it came from, but it didn't see me yet. When I switched over to my crossbow, it must have heard me though. Thankfully, I had plenty of charge bolts, which seemed to freeze it up for a moment. They clearly do extra damage too. It only took 3 bolts to take it down. I grabbed some fresh air from the elevator and braved the openness to go out and collect the chitin from its corpse, really hoping there weren't any more. This mantis poop I found next wasn't a good sign, and sure enough, it wasn't long before another one showed up. It spooked me right back to the elevator, and I thought it might have followed me, but when I came back, it was still just around the corner where I'd left it. I peekabooed it to death, thankful it had kept its distance, then continued to explore. This place was huge, with wrecked cars and bodies scattered on the road. I'm supposed to find that evolved flora here somewhere. I just have no idea where to go. I ended up going down this giant route next, where I found 2 more of the giant mantis and this crustipede. There hadn't been any oxygen stations at all yet, so I ran back to the elevator again. Then looked a bit more on the road, where I scanned these vines called hardened creepers. Looks like I'll need an upgraded knife to get through those. Next, I spotted one more mantis crawling around below, and running low on charge bolts, I decided it was probably time to head back up. Not ready to go back, I spent day 75 trying to figure out how the pipes and sprinklers work, then started making more of the charged bolts that evening. I just can't wait to go back down to the surface. I put it off a bit longer, spending the next morning making this new moth vivarium. I'd hoped maybe I could put the friendly insect out in it, but it was only for these weird little dust moths you get from the insect lure. They are still pretty cute though. Then, after working on even more of the charged bolts and rearranging things under the sprinklers, I finally went back to the elevator. I was nervous they might have respawned and eased my way in again. It was all clear except this crustipede and the one mantis I'd left down below the road. I continued exploring through the night. You can't really see the sun down here in the dust anyway, which made it even harder to spot these creepy little webbling boogers. They were scattered about everywhere, along with several sneaky crustipedes. And I forgot to bring the hypothermia booster I needed to get past the ice dew plants. I did remember to bring liquid oxygen at least. So far, I've only found 1 oxygen station down here. Other than a few interesting notes and random loot boxes, I really didn't find anything much. Most of the good stuff seems to be blocked by these tougher vines that need a better knife. Back up at the ship again on day 78, I finally realized I needed to run pipes for the fuel tanks too. I don't know what I was thinking, like it just had wireless or something. Obviously, that was not the case. I stocked back up on liquid oxygen, charge bolts, and water the rest of the day, and then would you believe I almost forgot the hypothermia booster again? Down we go. On day 79, I still didn't know how to get the better knife yet, thinking I needed to scan it somewhere, so I spent the day in the dust looking for it. I did find this new large water tank, plenty of these tasty crustapedes, and more mantis feces, but nothing to help me with a knife. Still searching on day 80, I followed an interesting path up a branch and into these lily pad trees, where I found a mantis corpse with a glowing pink gland to grab. I used it as an excuse to take a break from the dust and took it back up. I wanted to see what I could use it for, only to find the new knife I'd been looking for in the research station instead. Oh, it's been here all along. It's called an air cutter, and I unlocked it first thing, upgrading my old knife. Then I used the mantis poop to unlock a new dust fertilizer while waiting for it to craft. I couldn't resist testing it out when I was done. Yep. Cuts through this air just fine. It was storming outside and dark in my basement, so after that I added these new lights and finished up the day catching these cute little dust moths before calling it a night. With my new fancy knife, I made my way back down again on day 81, and finally able to cut through the hardened creepers, I found something new. This wrecked airship that had a new water generator inside. I continued exploring, noticing this knife had a charge and was getting low fast. This made me a bit more cautious about what I was cutting. I debated a bit, eventually deciding I wanted whatever was in this shipping crate. At first I worried I'd wasted the last of my knife on mantis poop, but around the wall was a new backpack. Now that's what I'm talking about. There was still some charge left on the air cutter, and I tried my luck again with another shipping crate, this time finding a large oxygen tank. After finally finishing off the last of its charge, I continued exploring until I found a path I didn't think I'd followed before. Nope, definitely haven't been that way yet. You know what? I think I might just come back tomorrow. Restocked and recharged, I took the elevator down again on day 82, going right to the path where I'd seen more mantis the day before. It wasn't there today, or I couldn't see it anyway. I could sure hear it though. Cautiously, I approached, following the road, noticing that up ahead most of it had fallen in, and down below, there it was, another giant bug. It spooked me at first, and I missed the shot, but then it was like shooting fish in a barrel. After the first one went down, 2 more came out too, and I finished them just as easily. I scanned these plants next, sleeping lilies. To be honest, I didn't even realize it was the plant I was looking for. I guess I expected it to be blue and tiny like the hologram of it I'd seen. I made my way down into the hole anyway, breaking this loft on a ladder to climb up to the new plant. I grabbed the seed hanging from it, and then my screen started glitching as the voice started talking again.
Create the cure. Bring it to the tree. Humanity will blossom anew. We will restore what was lost.
Yep, that's definitely the plant I've been looking for. Unsure if there was anything else to find, I looked at this force field for a while, checked out this mysterious hole, then walked right into a crustipede on my way home. I stopped to use the last of my knife charge on these blue booger-looking things and headed back up to the elevator. It was raining when I got out, and I got right to work in the ship, making space for a new big pot to grow the sleeping lily with the dust fertilizer. While I waited for it to grow, I did a bit of research and tested out the medical station just for fun. Oh, I didn't even realize it gives you an immunity boost. I watered the lily more on day 84 and did a bunch of random upgrades around the ship. Then it was finally done. I had the sleeping lily fruit and just needed to research the virus cure now. But wouldn't you know it, I'm all out of batteries. That's okay, I wanted to test out this extra set of engines anyway. In no time, I was at the nearest tower grabbing one more battery, which ended up being my last one. I plugged it in and researched the cure, then crafted it from one of the fruit. Then I died. No, I'm kidding. Just one final coughing fit.
The cure started working. You are slowly assimilating into a new world. I am proud of you.
It doesn't seem like this is the final cure, only temporarily stopping the effects. As I hopped into the medical station to check, I got a vision of what's to come next. Turns out that's the end of this game for now, with the full release to come next year sometime. Until then, I guess I'll just keep floating around in the sky, enjoying the ride. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this story, and let me know in the comments what you want to see me play next.